Okay, so let's have a look at the righteous branch. Isaiah, Yeshayahu, Perek Yod Aleph, chapter 11, verses 1 to 4. Vayatsa chotir megizah Yishai, v'netzer mesharashayav Yifrei. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord, Yahweh. And shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of Yahweh. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall, now that's meek of the earth. That's not people that are proud because they've learnt some things in the Torah. So we need to keep humble. The more I'm learning, the more I'm realising I don't know much. So that the Torah keeps me humble. It shows me how little I know. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. Does that remind us of anybody? Who destroys the wicked with the breath of his mouth? Anybody? Yeshua. Amen. It's Yeshua. And it's written way back there by Isaiah. And when Yeshua was baptized, the Spirit came upon him like a dove, and he was filled with the Spirit. There's the wisdom, the understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, and the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. So we've had that part fulfilled. And in fact, he has judged to a certain degree already when he came the first time. He offered the kingdom to Judah, and it was refused by the leaders. So he spoke to them in parables. Kingdom is going to be offered to another nation. What other nation is that? It's the house of Israel. And then God's going to put the two houses together and raise up David's fallen tabernacle. And then the last part he fulfills when he returns. So between these verses, there's 2,000 years almost. It says, God looks at it and he goes, oh, he's going to do this. It's like, he's not going to do it all in the same time. This part here, when he smites the earth with the rod of his mouth and with the breath of his lips, and he will slay the wicked, that's the second coming. So sometimes when we're reading verses, there's gaps. There's even gaps not only between sentences, but even halfway through sentences. In Yirmiyahu, in Jeremiah 23 verse 5, Hanei yamim ba'im na'um Yahweh, v'hakimoti l'David zemek tzadik, u'malak melek, v'hiskiel, v'asar mishpat, u'tzedakah ba'aretz. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and the king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. Now, on one level, this is certainly speaking of Yeshua, because he is the branch. But it can also mean that he'll raise up a branch, which is a descendant of David. This is important for the regathering of Israel when he raises up David's fallen tabernacle, as we'll discuss later. Here's another one about the branch. Now, so when it says branch, it's almost always referring to Yeshua. And so let's read on. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, or Yahweh, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and the king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. Has that been fulfilled? No. Judah is not saved, and Israel the lost tribes, do we dwell safely? We've kind of been safe here in America and Australia, but there's going to be a time very soon when we're very unsafe here. And the very military that's here to protect us is our worst nightmare. Because their allegiance is not to Yeshua, but to a king that knew not Joseph, named Barack Hussein Insane Obama. And this is his name whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness, Yahweh Tzidkenu. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that they shall no more say, Yahweh liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Yahweh liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all the countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. This is about the regathering. We're in early days before that happens. God is going to regather Israel, and He's going to gather us from this place called the North Country. Now, we're in a North Country, North America. But, and initially I thought this is the North Country. But I read in another place in Jeremiah that says the North Country by the Euphrates River. And I've seen the Missouri and Arkansas and Mississippi on the map, but I haven't seen a Euphrates. That's over where ISIS is living. And where you've got ISIS, you've got a crisis. So he tells us in detail that he's going to gather us from the North Country. So as I understand it, we're going to have to get there first. So he's going to take us out of one North Country and bring us to another, and there we'll get it together as a nation. And then he's going to bring us out of there. So that may be raining on some people's parades, and I'm sorry about that. If I'm wrong, I'm happily wrong. But we need to study these scriptures because he tells us all about the regathering of Israel. We're not going to be playing happy families in America and Australia and elsewhere for much longer. Not here anyway. And after the wreckage, we'll be playing happy families somewhere else. God's taking the lost tribes home. There's no way to avoid this. And this is what the New World Order is working on. They're going to try and build Zion. Of course, they want their all-seeing eye on the top of the pyramid, if you like. They don't want Yeshua. But the stone that the builders, the masons, have rejected has become the head of the corner. So even the bad guys kind of know the program. And they're quite willing to wreck America in order to build something. And we're going to see some stuff, as I like to say. So the good news is they shall dwell in their own land. God's going to gather His lambs under His arms. And if you read through Jeremiah 23, and you read through Ezekiel 34, He judges between sheep and sheep. He judges the leaders, kills them. He judges between sheep and sheep, He kills them. He kills the fat and the strong and those that push with their horns. He judges the leaders that muddy the waters with their feet by what they're doing. Not what they're preaching, but what they're doing. That's how you muddy waters, with your feet, because your feet is what you're doing. It's not just what you're saying. So God is going to bring Israel out through judgment. Again, check it out. Ezekiel 34, Jeremiah 23. Again, it's not a holiday camp, but He's very merciful to the remnant of His flock. He takes the poor in His arms and He brings them back to the mountains of Israel. So the Lord is not a big meanie in the sky. He's the good shepherd that layeth down His life for the sheep. And we need to have our eyes set upon Him. Another 10 chapters later, we read about this branch again. So the purpose of the branch is all about the regathering of Israel. This is one of the purposes of the Messiah, was to bring in the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And the rabbis say, well, He didn't do that. Well, give Him time. He's first of all just been whistling for them. And they've been coming to the altar and they've received Yeshua over 2,000 years. Now the ones that remain alive, He's bringing back to the land. That's what the Mashiach came to do. And He's going to be orchestrating that in the heavens. He's going to be orchestrating not only the judgment that's coming here on America, but the salvation that's going to come to the remnant of His people. Again, I like to say, God did not make a covenant with Barack Obama. He did not make a covenant with the New World Order. He did not make a covenant with the Nazis that crossed over and came into America and filled up the military-industrial complex, and that are no doubt behind the FEMA camps, because it's the same old dirty tricks from the same old book of dirty tricks. Concentration camps. God did not make a covenant with them, but He made a covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. And He will fulfill His end of the covenant. He will bring us out by blood and fire. He will destroy miserably those that come against us. But first He's going to be with the bad guys. He's going to be with them to judge His own house. Because He is holy. So God help us. He's going to bring us through. But we've got some things to go through. Last week I shared how the Nazis had on their belt buckle, Gott mit uns. Gott mit uns. God is with us. And He was. He was with them. He allowed them to do evil. Why didn't He help the Jews who were being sent to the gas chambers? When Israel sinned and complained once too often, He sent seraphim nachashim, fiery serpents amongst the camp, and Amalek attacked. God was with the serpents. He was with Amalek. He was with them to bring judgment upon His own camp. And that very one that also was with them also sent them away. And if He's judged the camp of Israel, and again I've shared this stuff with people last week, so I'm sorry if I'm going over some things, but if He judged the house of Judah, back in World War II, is He not going to judge the house of Israel? It says, though the house of Israel be like the sand of the seashore for multitude, only a remnant will be saved. Unless He had left us a very small remnant, we would have been as Sodom and Gomorrah. So the bad guys put their hand up and they say, when it's time to judge Israel for their sins, when your patience has come to an end, we will attack. And God says, I will be with you. Barack Obama, FEMA, I will be with you because my people are not listening to me. And I will judge them. And then God will change sides. And after the bad guys have done their evil, in the evil of their own evil hearts, God will miserably destroy them that would destroy us. And so though the enemy seemed unstoppable, and they had all the legions and the armies under heaven, it is not enough to save them from the wrath of Almighty God when He pours out His judgment upon them.
Hallelujah. That's right.
So we need to walk in the fear of the Lord, our Father in heaven. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will perform the good thing which I have promised unto the house of Israel and the house of Judah. In those days and at that time will I cause the branch of righteousness to grow up unto David, and he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. In those days Judah shall be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely, and this is the name wherewith she shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. For thus saith the Lord, David shall never want a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel. This is the house of Israel. That's us. That's us. Before we get to that glorious stage, we've got some things to go through. This is something we can't go around or under or over. We're going to go through it. And we're going to go through it together, or we're not going to survive. Because the reason that Israel is dispersed is actually because of the lack of brotherly kindness. It was that lack of brotherly kindness that caused Joseph to be sent down to Egypt and sold down the river to the Ishmaelites, to the Midianites, and down to Pharaoh and to Potiphar's house.